Hi friends, my name is Millie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to bring you my predictions for the Goodreads 2024 Choice Awards in the fantasy category. So this video is very much inspired by Meg with Books, who I absolutely love on BookTube. She is so funny, and she recently did a video where she was predicting the nominees for the mystery category in the Goodreads Choice Awards, and then she's going to read all of the nominees. So I think I'm gonna do, inspired by that video, a fantasy predictions. So I've read quite a few fantasy books that have been released or published this year. The way that the books get nominated is dependent on the average rating and the number of ratings and reviews that the book has gotten as well, and obviously it has to be published from when the voting closed for last year's one up to when the voting closes for this year's one, which is probably going to be mid-November sometime. The dates change each year, but it is always October-November time, so that's why I'm filming this video now. In case the nominations got released tomorrow, then my predictions will be up. So that is what we're doing. Okay, so there will be, I think it's 20 nominations for the fantasy category. So I've picked 20 books that I think are going to be nominated. So I have done my research before this video because I don't want this video to be hours long of me searching through lists and stuff. The trouble with Goodreads is you kind of don't really know what categories they're going to do. So last year they introduced a romantasy category for the very first time, which obviously I get because romantasy is becoming a really big thing. It's not technically its own genre though. So I find it quite hard to work out what books are going to go, whether they're going to go into fantasy, or if there is another romantasy category again this year, if it's going to go in romantasy. So if some of these are nominated but they end up in a romantasy category rather than a fantasy category, I'm still counting it as kind of a win. So I've got 20 predictions and we'll see. We'll see what if it ends up going in fantasy or in romantasy. I find it quite hard to work out what Goodreads is going to do. Some of these I have read and are personally ones I think should definitely be nominated, but also do have a good average rating and a good number of reviews on Goodreads. So the first one that I think should be nominated, although it doesn't have that high of an average rating, it is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. So this was released in April of this year and it has a 3.81 average rating on Goodreads and 71,000 ratings and 13,000 reviews. So I think that is going to be enough to get it nominated. Leigh Bardugo, I feel like because she's such a big name as well, it does mean she's going to get nominated. So I'm really hopeful it will because I absolutely love this book. I know it's very much a Marmite book. I know a lot of people have not really enjoyed it, but I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I just thought it was so incredibly well written. I was really immersed into the time period. This is set during Spain's golden age. Follows this young girl who is taken to the royal court and kind of used in this competition with her magic, and she is trained by her mentor who is technically a familiar called Santanjo, and I adored him. I feel like Leigh Bardugo's writing style and historical settings work really, really well. So I'm hoping we'll see a lot more historical fantasies from her, but I absolutely love this. So if this does get nominated, this is definitely one I would consider giving my vote to. I hope she'll get nominated. I just, the 3.81 isn't great, but I think it just needs to be above a 3.5 maybe. I can't remember what the rating cutoff is, but it's got loads of reviews, so I feel like it's quite popular. The Goodreads Choice Awards are just a popularity contest, there is no weight to them, but I love seeing what gets nominated personally, and although I've never attempted to read the nominations before, I think I will this year, but hopefully if Leigh Bardugo gets nominated, at least I've already read this one. The next one that I think is going to get nominated is Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune. So TJ Klune, I love. I know that a lot of people sometimes don't really get along with his writing style, but I think he's very, very funny. And this is the sequel to House in the Cerulean Sea, which I believe won the Goodreads Choice Awards one year, or at least was nominated in the year it was published. Okay, so this was the nominee for Reader's Favourite Fantasy in 2020. So it didn't win. Has any of his other books won? Okay, so Under the Whispering Door was a nominee in 2021. In the Lives of Puppets won the award for the science fiction category in 2023, so that one last year. I feel like TJ Klune has got a pretty good chance of at least being nominated this year, if not winning. I love this book. I gave it 5 stars, but it wasn't quite as good as House in Cerulean Sea for me. I feel like this book is just so cozy and wonderful, and it's just like a warm hug like the first book is. So you're following magical children on this island being taken care of by Linus and Arthur, and it's just a really cozy, heartwarming story. I just didn't love this one quite as much as House in Cerulean Sea, but I still really adored the story and the characters, of course. And this one has a 4.36 average rating with 27,000 ratings and 5,000 reviews, so I feel like it does have a very good chance of being nominated. We then have, I don't own this physically, but Can't Spell Treason Without T by Rebecca Thorne. So I know this was indie published in 2022, but it was traditionally published this year. It was traditionally published in May, and it does have quite a few reviews. It's got 3.78 average rating with 13,000 ratings and 3,000 reviews, so I feel like it could at least get nominated. This is another cozy fantasy, very much in the vein of Legends and Lattes. I didn't give it 5 stars, so this probably wouldn't be my pick if it is nominated, but I did really enjoy it, and I have got the sequel to read, which is A Pirate's Life for Tea. It's going to be loads of books in this series, it looks like, and it's basically about these 2 women who wanted to escape the kind of dangerous life that they were in. So they escaped to Dragon Country and open a bookshop. It serves teen cakes, and it's just really cute. It's really cozy. There are some fairly high stakes in it, and I really enjoyed it. I'm hoping that this will get nominated. I feel like it deserves to. It would be good for Goodreads to, you know, be nominating more diverse reads. Obviously this is sapphic, so hopefully it will get nominated. Now the next one, I don't know if it would go in the fantasy category, or if there is a romantasy category, if it would go in romantasy, but it is The Crimson Moth by Kristen Cicerelli. So this one came out in February, and I feel like really took the world by storm. It has got a 4.21 average rating and over 125,000 ratings with 21,000 reviews, so I feel like this is definitely going to get nominated for something. This is just like everywhere at the minute, especially because the sequel is coming out next February. I have got the ARC sitting just there, and this one basically follows a witch and a witch hunter, and there's like a forbidden romance. The witch knows that he's a witch hunter, he doesn't know that she's a witch. Kind of like in the same sort of similar vein as like Serpent and Dove. It was giving me those kinds of vibes, the concept, but I loved it. Really, really well written, really fascinating, really gripped me. So I don't think it was quite 5 stars, I think it was 4.5 stars, but I really enjoyed it. Really liked the romance as well, so I'm hoping, well, no, I'm not hoping. This is definitely going to get nominated. I just don't know whether it's going to be fantasy or romantasy. The next one that I think is definitely going to get nominated is Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands. This came out in January, so I do think it would be for this round of the Choice Awards. It's got a 4.31 average rating with 49,000 ratings and 8,000 reviews, so I feel like this is definitely going to get nominated for fantasy. This is the sequel to Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and these are kind of slower paced fantasies. They're quite cozy, but they follow Emily Wilde, who is she's a professor, she's a scholar of fairy folklore. So in the first book she was trying to create an Encyclopedia of Fairies, and in this one she's trying to map the fairy realms, and I really enjoyed this one. I think I gave it 4 stars, and I definitely think this is a sequel worth reading. I think this is going to be a trilogy, and a lot of the times the second book in a trilogy has second book syndrome and is not that great, but I thought this was definitely a sequel worth reading. It's charming and whimsical, and I love the characters in this series. My favourite little side character made an appearance as well, and I'm very excited for the 3rd book, which is Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales. So I really hope that this one does get nominated. I think it will. I enjoyed it a lot. Okay, and then another one that I don't know whether it's going to be fantasy or romantasy, A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. I gave this one 4.75 stars. I feel like it is just a 5-star read though. This one is like Norse mythology, and you have characters that are imbued with like the power of different gods, and in this one our main character is sort of taken from her tribe and she's married off to a king, but she's like the second wife, and it's kind of all really just like for show. She's like the shield maiden, and he kind of just wants that power because he's already married, but she starts developing feelings for his son, who is actually her age. The king is like way older, and I love this. It was so well written. I Absolutely adored the characters and the romance. I thought the chemistry was really, really great. It was so addictive to read. And this one came out in February, 3.97 average rating with 98,000 ratings and 18,000 reviews. So it's definitely going to get nominated for something. It's just whether it's fantasy or romantasy once again. Now the next one is a given. Whether it's fantasy or romantasy, I don't know, but it is House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J Maas. I don't know what this one's going to be nominated for. It's obviously going to be nominated because of the author's name. This one does have a 4.21 average rating and 430,000 ratings and 51,000 reviews. So it's definitely being nominated for something, but it's just what. I didn't love this installment in the series. I can't remember what I gave it now. I think my initial rating was higher than what I thought of it. It was quite anticipated for me after the ending of House of Sky and Breath, but I didn't think it was executed in the way that I was kind of expecting it to be, or in the way that I was kind of wanting it to be. I'll obviously still continue reading Sarah J Maas because A, I don't want to get spoiled, B, because I've read all of her books at this point. You know, that's a lot of my time. But yeah, I didn't love this installment in the Crescent City series, which is a shame because I did really love the first book. This one's it's still going to get nominated because it has got such high average rating and so many ratings. I mean, it's probably going to win as well because it's Sarah J Maas. It's going to win whatever category it goes in because we'll just vote for her name, but I'm not sure it deserves to win, but it will get nominated for something. Okay, so now the first one that I haven't read, so possibly if it gets nominated, I'm going to be reading this one in like November, December. That is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. This came out, or it technically isn't even out yet. It's out at the end of October. I have got the arc of it. I just can't be bothered to go and get it. But this one has a 4.45 average rating with 8,000 ratings and 2,000 reviews, and it's not even out yet. I know this was this indie? Oh, okay, so I think it was indie published in 2023, so that's why it's got more ratings and reviews. But it is highly anticipated, the traditionally published version, and I'm very excited to read this. I do hope it does get nominated, so I have more of an excuse to bump it up my TBR. I've got no idea what it's about. I think it's about a magic school, maybe. So the main character has devoted every waking moment for the last 20 years to the study of magic, to be the first woman ever admitted to the high magistry. But when she starts there, her colleagues will stop at nothing to let her know that she is unwelcome, and they give her, instead of a qualified lab assistant, they give her a janitor. But what neither the main character or the peers realise is that the assistant was once more than a janitor. He was a nomadic hunter from beyond the countries or cities magical barrier, and he survived the perilous crossing that killed his family, but he wants to understand the forces that decimated his tribe and drove him from his homeland. So they work together and they uncover an ancient secret that could change the course of magic forever. And it does say it's a standalone dark academia brimming with mystery, tragedy and the damning echoes of the past. I know a lot of people love The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang, so I feel like this one is going to get nominated, even for only having been out for like a couple of weeks by the time the nominations get released, purely because of people loving the author's first book and of this being a very highly anticipated release. I feel like a lot of people are going to read it straight away when it comes out, so could be that one. And then we have A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. So I don't own it, haven't read it, but I have recently read Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, which I gave 5 stars. So obviously I'm hoping that this one gets nominated so that I can have an excuse to buy it and read it. This one is a dark retelling of Goose Girl, you know, the Brothers Grimm story, and I really liked T. Kingfisher's writing style in Nettle and Bone. That's kind of like a twisted version of a fairy tale, but this one has a 4.17 average rating and 12,000 ratings and 2,000 reviews, and it was only released in August, so I think this one is definitely going to get nominated. I hope it does because I really want to read it. Then we've got one that I'm not so sure about, but it does have a lot of ratings and reviews. It is Five Broken Blades by Mai Corland. So this one has a 3.83 average rating but 19,000 ratings and 4,000 reviews, so I feel like this is definitely possible. I don't actually know if this has been published in the UK or not. I have the Kindle version, I think, on my iPad. I think I got it for like 99p, so I can read it on there. I've got no idea what it's about. I just saw a lot of people reading it when it was coming out and enjoying it. I don't think I've seen many people talking about it recently though, so this one might not get nominated, but it does have a lot of reviews, so that's what I'm basing it off of. But it is about how the 5 most dangerous liars in the land summon to work together for a single objective: to kill the God King. And they have to forge an alliance and trust each other, but only one can take the crown. So that sounds really interesting. I don't know. Okay, the next one is one that's definitely gonna get nominated. It's just again whether it's fantasy or romantasy. So it is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. I do actually own this. I can't bother to get up and go and get it. This one is absolutely being nominated. I know it was indie published first, but it was traditionally published this year, and again absolutely blew up from being traditionally published again. So it is a 4.10 average rating and over 106,000 ratings and 17,000 reviews. Absolutely being nominated. This one is like dragons and romance and all of that good stuff. Although I feel like it has been a bit of a mixed bag recently that I've seen. A couple of people that I watch on BookTube have read it and not enjoyed it that much. But I'm really intrigued. I feel like this is right up my alley, so I'm hopeful. I also love the cover, but this is definitely being nominated. It's just for what category. Okay, the next one I'm not so sure about, but it is Evocation or Evocation by S.T. Gibson. This is the first book in the Summoner's Circle series. I think it's the series anyway. A little novella was released last week called Odd Spirits, which I'm excited to read that one as well. But this one I'm not so sure about because it is a 3.64 average rating and 6,000 ratings and 2,000 reviews, but I feel like because it is S.T. Gibson, who is quite a popular author, it's possible they will get nominated. This one is following like psychics, and I believe it is polyamorous perhaps. So David is a psychic and he made a deal with the devil, I believe, and now the devil has come to collect. His days are numbered, and he reaches out to his ex-boyfriend Reese, Reese's wife Moira, to help him. I don't really know much more than that. I feel like this could get nominated. I'm just not entirely sure. I hope it does because I want an excuse to read it. I have read A Diary of Blood and An Education in Malice by S.T. Gibson. So hopefully this one does so I can read it. The next one I hope does not get nominated because I don't want to read it, but I feel like it will. It is When Among Crows by Veronica Roth. So this is only like a little novella, so I'm not sure whether that can get nominated, but it does have 11,000 ratings on Goodreads, but only a 3.73 average rating, so I'm not sure. I hope it doesn't, but I feel like it might, again because it is quite a big name. I have not read any Veronica Roth since Divergent, and I don't want to. I really did not like how the Divergent trilogy ended, as much as I love the first book and as much as it was a part of, you know, that kind of YA dystopian era. I really didn't like how she ended the trilogy, so I don't want to read any more from Veronica Roth. I don't want to read When Among Crows, even though I feel like I have heard better things about this. But yeah, I'm not sold. So hopefully it doesn't, but I feel like it might. The next one I think is going to be nominated is one that I both hope is nominated and also hope isn't, because it's only out in hardback at the minute and I own the rest of the series in paperback. I don't want to buy the hardback because it won't match, and also I have not read the book before this one, so I'd have to read that one and then this one. It is The Blackbird Oracle by Deborah Harkness. It is the 5th book in the All Souls series, which started with A Discovery of Witches. So I've read A Discovery of Witches, the red one, there's Shadows something, and then the Book of Life. I have not read Time's Convert, which is the 4th book, and now there is a 5th book. So it's set in a world where there are witches, vampires and demons, and you have a witch named Rebecca, was that her name, who ends up summoning this like old book from a library, and it draws loads of magical creatures to her, including a very, very old vampire named Matthew, who wants this book to find out why vampires are getting weaker with every generation. So obviously they end up falling in love, and it is a really great series. I really like the slower pace of it. It wasn't an absolute favourite series for me, but I did really enjoy it, and I haven't read the 4th book because it is following a side character, I believe, and I'm intrigued, but I wasn't like desperate to pick it up. And this one, her name isn't even Rebecca, her name's Diana. Where did I get Rebecca from? I don't know. But anyway, it's following Diana, and this one goes back to Diana and Matthew, and I think it's to do with their family? I can't remember. But I don't want to have to buy the hardback, so I probably would just get the ebook from somewhere. I don't want to have to read 2 books to read 1 book. Does that make sense? But this one does have 4.15 average rating and 17,000 ratings and 1,000 reviews, so I feel like it is definitely going to be nominated for one of the awards. The next one that I hope is not nominated because I have no real interest in reading it, although maybe I would enjoy it, I don't know. I haven't read anything from this author before, so I'm a bit, don't really know what to think. It is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. I know absolutely nothing about Robert Jackson Bennett, what he's written before, but this one has a 4.32 average rating and 21,000 ratings, so it's definitely going to be nominated. Luckily it's the first book in a series, so that's not too bad, and it's to do with like leviathans, which I don't really understand what that will mean, but it's like a fantasy mystery, so there's like a murder mystery plot going on, so it does sound kind of intriguing. It's just not really something I would have ever just picked up for myself, so yeah, I don't know if I want to read it, but if it gets nominated, I obviously will, and I think it will get nominated. Again, this next one, I would have to read the first book in the series to read this one. It is Empire of the Damned by Jay Kristoff. This is the sequel to Empire of the Vampire, which was a highly anticipated release by Jay Kristoff. I was not really that interested. I haven't read any Jay Kristoff before. I think I probably will in the future, but it wasn't something I was that interested in picking up at the time. But this one has a 4.57 average rating and 15,000 ratings, so I feel like this one is going to be nominated, and that would mean I have to read Empire of the Vampire, and they are both very chunky books, so that intimidates me. Also because they're like grimdark fantasy, so they're quite heavy going, maybe a bit slower paced. I haven't read any Jay Kristoff before, so I'd obviously have to get used to his writing style. But this one is definitely going to get nominated, so I just need to suck it up, I think. The next one, luckily, if this gets nominated, I have read. It is The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. So I read this, when did I read this? Back in April, and I gave it 4 stars. I enjoyed the writing style. I really love Catherine Arden. I love the Bear and the Nightingale trilogy, or the Winter Night trilogy that she did previously. That is an absolutely amazing fantasy trilogy. Please read it. Absolutely gorgeous. This one is set during the Great War, and it follows a nurse who travels to Belgium to volunteer at a private hospital because she's received word that her brother has died in combat, but something doesn't quite make sense, so she goes to Belgium to be a nurse to work out what's happened. And that is in January 1918, but then you have got chapters set in November 1917 following the brother to find out what happened to him. And there is a strange hotelier whose wine gives soldiers the gift of oblivion. So it's like kind of historical fantasy, kind of a little bit mysterious and eerie and haunting. I think it was just very different to what I was expecting it to be. I was expecting more along the lines of The Bear and the Nightingale, more mythology based, I guess, and it was a lot more historical World War kind of stuff than I was expecting it to be. But that's on me, that's not on Catherine Arden, and I will definitely read from Catherine Arden again. This one has got a 4.01 average rating and 17,000 ratings, so I think this one is going to get nominated. Just probably won't be my pick, but still deservedly should get a nomination. The next one I think is going to be nominated is Feybound. This one is here on my shelves, but it is wedged right in, so I'm not going to attempt to dismantle the shelves to get it out. Feybound is by Sarah El-Arifi, who I absolutely love. I love the Final Strife series. I wish that the Ending Fire would be nominated, but I don't think that that has been read enough by people to be nominated, as much as I love the series. I think you can have multiple books by the same author, but they can't be in the same series, so maybe The Ending Fire would be nominated, but I think Feybound is more likely. This one has a 3.60 average rating, but 14,000 ratings, so quite popular. This is the first in a new series by Sarah El-Arifi, and it is basically about these 2 elven sisters who are banished from their tribe and end up running into the Fae, who haven't been seen for a millennium, and the Fae kind of want to use them as a sacrifice to kind of prove their strength and stuff. And it is a bit of a romantasy. There is some romance going on, not as much as I feel like it was marketed as. And I didn't love this as much as the Final Strife series, but I know Sarah El-Arifi can write amazing sequels. Like The Battle Drum is one of the best fantasy sequels that I've read, so I am definitely going to continue with the series with Cursebound. But I think this one will get nominated. I'm thinking it will get nominated for fantasy. I hope it doesn't get put in romantasy because it's not that romance based, but I don't know what Goodreads will choose to do. We then have, oh, it's right up there. I'm not gonna get that. I'm being very lazy in this video, I'm sorry. But it is The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields. So this one could be put in romantasy, possibly, because it is much more romance based. But this one has a 3.63 average rating and 10,000 ratings. So I think it is definitely going to get nominated based on the number of ratings, but the average rating I'm not so sure. But you're following Marigold, who has never been interested in the pursuits of suitors, so when her grandmother invites her to go and live with her on the Isle of Innisfree, she jumps at the chance. But the kind of like catch that comes with being the Witch of Innisfree is that no one can fall in love with you, or you can never find true love. And then a notoriously grumpy skeptic, Lottie, ends up on the island, and Marigold wants to prove to her that magic is real. And then there's like Darker Magic Awakening. I gave this one 4 stars, and I thought it was really whimsical and sweet, perfect for summer as well. It's a really cute cozy fantasy, got like bees and meadows and little cottage and spells and like made of honey. It was just really lovely, felt very peaceful, so it like the stakes didn't feel that high. I wasn't like that invested in the dark magic aspect because I was like, oh well, everything's gonna turn out fine anyway. But I did really enjoy it, so I hope this one gets nominated. I feel like it deserves to. It was really well written. So the final one that I've got on my list is one I do not own and don't really have that much interest in reading, but I think it is going to get nominated because it has a lot of ratings. It is The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. This one has a 4.04 average rating, which is really good, and 33,000 ratings, so this is definitely going to be nominated. And now I'm reading the synopsis, I am kind of intrigued. So it's following a bookseller who is given a gift by a favourite customer, and it is a book full of strange writing and mysterious drawings. And at the very front there is a handwritten message to Cassie, the bookseller, telling her that this is the Book of Doors and that any door is every door. So it's a book that bestows extraordinary powers on whoever possesses it, and she and her best friend are swept away from their quiet lives by the possibilities of travelling to anywhere they want. That sounds really interesting actually. I wouldn't be mad if that's nominated and I have to read it. I would not be mad at that. So those are the 20 predictions that I have got. Obviously there is a new Brandon Sanderson book coming out in November sometime, I believe. I think it's November, it might be early December. That is the final book in the first era of the Stormlight Archives. I believe it's called Wind and Truth. I have not read any of the Stormlight Archive. I own them, but they are massive books. So if Wind and Truth gets nominated, which I don't think it should because I don't think it will be out like in time to be nominated, but anyway, if it is, I'm not going to be reading that one because I am not reading. There's no way I'm going to be reading. Well, I'd have to read Warbreaker first, but I'd also have to read like The Way of Kings, Oathbringer, Rhythm of War, Words of Radiance, whatever order they're in order to read Wind and Truth. But yeah, I'm not going to be committing myself to that if that gets nominated. That would just be I know I love Brandon Sanderson, so I know I would enjoy it, but I'm not going to be reading all of them by the end of the year. So if that gets nominated, then I'm not reading that one. But it could be. I don't know if it would fall into the like right timeline or not. But anyway, so those are my predictions for the Goodreads Fantasy Choice Awards. Who knows whether these will end up in fantasy or romantasy or whatever categories they dream up. I have hope that some of my favourites will end up on that list. Particularly The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, I really hope does. I think that would be my pick, depending on what else there is, and obviously what else I end up reading. I am excited to find out what is going to be nominated and find out what I'm going to be reading or trying to read anyway. Who knows if I would be able to read. Imagine if it's 20 books and I've not read any of them. That would be something, wouldn't it? That would not be fun. But we will see. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what your predictions are for the Goodreads Choice Awards. Doesn't have to be fantasy, it could be any category, any genre. And yeah, like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you wanna, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I will see you in another video soon. Bye!